Where should you go to get the best mouthpiece advice? Well, you might be surprised to find it's actually your mouthpiece. Hi, Paul Mays here. Welcome to the Trumpet Prof channel. A question that comes up a lot is, how do I choose the right mouthpiece? That's an almost impossible question to answer, but my advice is don't copy others. You are unique, and so is the way that you play. Some players can play anything on pretty much everything, and their choice of mouthpiece is then more refined. But for most players, they're relying on the mouthpiece to strengthen technical weaknesses. You need knowledge and technical understanding to make an informed choice, and using common sense isn't always helpful. So let's get into the video. The best mouthpiece for you is the one that does the most for you. So you can focus on the music, on playing relaxed and playing efficiently. Saying that, it can't do absolutely everything for you. So which qualities should you prioritize and why? So for me, sound is the most important quality that I look for in a mouthpiece. And if you don't make a good sound, then you're probably not going to find a mouthpiece that's going to correct that, because that's a technical issue and something that you should look at. If that is a problem of yours, the chances are that your lips are maybe too close together. They might be too pinched. Maybe when you started playing the trumpet, you started by buzzing your lips. Obviously, that's a very, very common way of doing it. But the downside of that is it can produce a very kind of pinched sound. So try to have more space between your lips when you place the mouthpiece, or once you've placed the mouthpiece, just try to drag the top lip out the mouthpiece a little bit, because that will just pull your lips apart. That's not always easy to do. Maybe you could think of just scrunching your nose a little bit. That might drag the lip the same way. In fact, you'll see me do that sometimes before I play. But when you've got that nice clear sound, then you can look at the mouthpiece to give you the color and the sonority that you're after. I could change my technique in order to play darker or brighter, and if it was only a short phrase or a short passage of music, then I would probably do that. But if I'm playing a whole piece where I need a different sound, then it's just not an efficient way of producing it. So I would definitely change my mouthpiece then in order to change that timbre. The second quality that I look for is response. Yes, you can change your technique in order to change the response of the instrument, or you can also change the mouthpiece in order to do that. So you do have a choice. But I think if you're testing out mouthpieces, this is an area that you really should focus on, because you want to listen out for any blurring in the sound, any smearing between the harmonics. So just playing up and down open harmonics is a good way to assess that. You can also play a chromatic scale. Try to play as high and low as you can. Listen to the way that the notes are changing, the notes are clicking in, the resonance of the sound. It's really up to you to feel that change, to feel the difference. Then you can start working out the type of mouthpiece that really suits you. Every aspect of the mouthpiece can change the feel and response of the instrument. Remember, you want to work less and find a mouthpiece that does more. If you found a mouthpiece that had a great sound, that had really good response, but it felt a little bit uncomfortable, I wouldn't discard that, because it's likely that it only feels uncomfortable because you're used to something else. In my experience, the body changes over time to accommodate a new change in equipment. I experienced that when I went on to the Monet Prana, and I was expecting something completely different. I love what I read about it. I thought, this is the mouthpiece for me. The feedback is going to be amazing. But when I played it, funnily enough, it was the low register that I lost. The upper register was strong and had a great sound, but I just seemed to lose the low G and the low F sharp in my range. And I thought, well, I just can't use this. I played it for a couple of days, nothing changed. So I remember emailing Jason at Monette, and he said to me, just stick with it because it will change over time. And it did change. So there's a good lesson to learn there, I think. What about range? I don't think I would prioritize it above sound or response. Work at your range within your technique. And if you can play high, you'll find that you can play high on anything. Now, I'm not talking about specialist equipment. I'm not talking about mouthpieces to play lead trumpet. I'm talking about a default mouthpiece, your default mouthpiece that you're generally going to do most things on. Yes, if I want to play some lead trumpet, I'm going to put in a different mouthpiece. Of course I am. But if I'm looking for a default mouthpiece, I'm looking for the sound and I'm looking for the response, and I'm working at my technique within that. A mouthpiece that gives me room to grow, gives me potential, but gives me a great sound. So why haven't I mentioned cut depths and rim sizes and backbores yet? Well, that's because everyone is unique, not just in their physicality, but in the way they play. Your technique will determine the way that you react to a mouthpiece. And sometimes it's not always the way you think. A few days ago, I went up into the loft and went in search of mouthpieces. I found some that I'd totally forgotten that I had. Some from years and years ago when I was a kid. But I've chosen 11 of them. I played 2 different exercises on all of those mouthpieces to demonstrate to you the difference in sound and in response between deep and shallow, wide, narrow, tight backboards, open backboards, because I think that's the best way for you to maybe hear the way that they respond to me. And in order for me to demonstrate to you that it's not all about the mouthpiece, and I think you'll find some of the results quite interesting. So, do players with fleshy lips have to use a wide mouthpiece? Not necessarily. Do you need a shallow mouthpiece in order to play high? Not necessarily. And if you want to make a really big sound, do you have to play a mouthpiece that is deep or wide? Again, not necessarily. Big sound for me is about resonance, it's about color. And you can get that from a narrow mouthpiece and also from a shallow mouthpiece. And does playing a shallow mouthpiece mean that the high range will be that much easier? In some circumstances, yes, it would. But in others, it makes it more fragile. And if you're not playing lead trumpet, then you might just want a mouthpiece that secures the upper register. And as we've just heard, some of the deep mouthpieces can do that. There's so much to learn about mouthpieces and how they respond, but the main thing to take away here is that everybody is unique. Everybody is different. And the mouthpiece will respond to the way that you play technically. Imagine being able to play and perform on any mouthpiece on the market. That comes down to your technique. That comes down to being able to use your mouthpiece in order to refine what you do, not to use your mouthpiece to rely on what you do technically. Common sense doesn't always hold the answers. If you're, for instance, someone that cracks a lot of notes, then have you ever considered maybe going on to a slightly deeper mouthpiece? Because the shallower ones, as we've just heard, are slightly more fragile. Not for everybody, but that could be the answer. Again, the more knowledge that you have, then the more likely you are to work out exactly what it is you need. Don't copy anybody else. Figure it out for yourself. Test the mouthpieces and find one that's right for you. Hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, please click the like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. I'll see you next time.